In this video, I'm going to show you how to play Hand of the Hanataz. And this is a game that is developed for the Deck of Perilous Fortuity by GUICube. So head over to GUICube.com, get yourself a couple of these decks, and learn how to play this awesome game. This game is also based on Runes and Bones, which is a game I designed before. And basically, it plays the same way, except in Hand to the Hanataz, there's an extra step with the Hanataz hand here, and there are more special abilities than there are in Runes and Bones. So let's get started with setup. The first thing you're going to do, and notice I have some custom components here that aren't in the Deck of Perilous Fortuity. For example, I've got a Fool token and a Hanataz token, which are just tarot type cards that you can use to keep track of the game. You can use any kind of token you want as long as the Fool token looks different than the Hanataz token. And if you're using two decks with 5 through 8 players and choose to put 2 Fools in the deck, you'll actually need 2 Fool tokens. Also, I've got some sylphs here that I use, some metal coins. You can use anything you want. You can use pennies, you can use cubes, whatever it is that you would like to do to track wealth in the game. So let's get the game set up. The first thing you're going to do is remove all the nubs from the deck or decks if you're playing with 5 to 8 players. And those nubs are not used in the game. They're actually used in front of players to tell whether or not they have nubbed out or left the round and are no longer competing for the pot. Now, I've got this set up for 3 players. I would say that 5 to 8 players is the best game. 3 players is doable. It's okay. 4 players is a little bit more fun. But really, a 5 to 8 player game makes this game really interesting. The second thing to do during setup is to decide how many face cards that you want to put in the deck. Basically, the more face cards, the more chaotic it is. I'll put some setup options on the screen while I talk about setup a little bit more. You're going to give each player 15 sylphs to get started with. You're going to deal 5 cards to each player, and then you're going to lay out 5 cards as the Hanataz hand next to the draw deck. You'll place your Hanataz token and your Fool token next to the pot, and we'll use this area up here for our pot. And then before the first round, each player puts in 1 sylph to get the game started. In later rounds, you'll actually be putting sylphs in based on how many cards you played and how many you'll put 1 sylph per card to refill your hand to 5 cards, which give your cards a value of at least 1 sylph. So when you're playing them, you have to think, is this worth a sylph for me to play this card? So keep that in mind. And now we're ready to play the first round. Make sure everybody's nub is face up. Randomly choose a first player. I'll just say that this player is going to be our first player. And then we start taking turns in clockwise order, trying to win this pot. So to win the pot, you basically have to have the controlling card, which has to be a number card of some sort. And that controlling card allows you to pick up the Hanataz token. This is your first option of the 4 options you can do during your turn, is to just play a card to try and take the pot. So I'm going to play the 5 of waves and put the Hanataz token in front of me. So I will get to test the Hanataz hand for the pot if it gets back to my turn, the beginning of my turn, and I still have the Hanataz token. So let me go over briefly the other 3 options that you would have during your turn. You could, instead of playing a number card to try and take control of the pot, which at this point you have to play a waves card higher than 5 to take control of the pot. Or you could play any 5 of any suit, and then you would add, so if this player had a 5 of stone, they could play that there, add a coin to the pot, and then take the Hanataz token and take control of that pot. So that's your second option, or your second way to take control of the pot. Higher number or same number, and then add a coin. Your second option on your turn, other than playing a number card, is to play a face card. Now, all of the face cards have special abilities, and at the end of this that explanation, I will go over each face card individually. However, you could just stop the video at that point and say, I'm going to give it a try and look at the rules as far as the face cards. So, first option, play a card and try and take control of the pot and grab the Hanataz token. Second option, play a face card for its special ability. That's not going to help you win the pot, but those special abilities could get you sylphs, could get you cards, however you play those. Third option is to say, and we'll just do that option with this player here since it's their turn, is to pass. When you pass, you're staying in the round, but you're adding to the pot. So you're going to add one sylph to the pot and say, I'm going to pass. Now that is hoping that it gets back to them and then they can win the pot later. There are reasons to try and pass. It's probably not a good idea this round for this player to pass, but I'm demonstrating the rules. Then the fourth option is to nub out, meaning we'll just say this player says, I cannot beat a 5. I don't want to spend any of my cards right now. I'm going to nub out, flip my card face down, and say, I'm out of this round. So those are the 4 options. Play a number card to try and take the Hanataz token to try and win the pot. Play a face card to do whatever the face card does. Pass and add a sylph to the pot. 4, nub out and relinquish your right to play for the rest of this round. So in this demo round, this person passed, this person nubbed out. Probably not the best play strategy. It comes back to the beginning of my turn. I have the Hanataz token. So since I won this round, because it came back to me and I still have the Hanataz token, I now must compete against the Hanataz hand for the pot. And the way that works is I choose one of these cards. And if the Hanataz hand beats me, meaning that they have a waves card higher than a 5, then I have to split the pot with a Hanataz. And it's half the pot rounded down is what I must give them. So I'm going to pick a card here, and that is a flame card. So it does not beat, it's not of the same suit, so it does not win. It'll just go to the discard. I get the whole pot. All of the number cards that are next to the pot get discarded. I refill the Hanataz hand, and we are ready to get started for the next round. So the second round works a little bit different, the second and any other rounds, on how the pot gets built. So first of all, everybody flips their nub face up to start the new round so that everybody's in it. And then players may add to the pot 1 sylph in order to replace any number of cards in their hand. So this person here who had, let's say they had 2 cards that they don't want anymore. They put them in the discard. They add 1 sylph to the pot. They draw back up to 5. They're done. I played 1 card, so I have to put in a sylph to get 1 card. If I had played 3 cards, I would have to put 3 sylphs in the pot to draw those 3 cards. This player also did not play any cards, so they wouldn't have to actually put anything in the pot. If they had played, let's say, 2 cards, and they wanted to replace 2 cards, they can pay 1 to replace the 2 cards that they discarded, and then 2 more to fill their hand back to 5 cards, because they had played 2, and then they wanted to replace 2. Bringing them back to 5 cards, and then because I won that last round, I would start the next round. That is basically how you play the game. We haven't talked about any of the special cards, but I'm going to do that next. The core mechanic is you're trying to play number cards of the same suit, get back around. If you have the Hanataz token in front of you at the beginning of your turn, you win the pot. Now, that doesn't seem all that difficult, but now we're going to talk about the face cards. The first face card I want to talk about is the Jester. Now, when you play a face card, we're going to say that we're mid-round here. I have the Hanataz token, and I now have a 9 of stone controlling the pot. So if it gets back to me, I'll win that pot. For this player, we're going to say they have a hand full of face cards, and we're going to go through what might happen at this point in the game with any of those face cards. First of all, the Jester. The Jester card allows you to use the ability Jester's Insight. This lets you look at a face-down card of the Hanataz hand and choose to place it back in the same position or shuffle it into the 5 Hanataz cards. Then it allows you to draw a card and play a card. So, for example, if I played the Jester now from this hand, I could say, well, I want to just put that back. Or I could say, I'm going to shuffle those all around. Then, after I've done whatever I want in the Hanataz hand, I get to draw a card and play a card. Now, I don't necessarily have to play the card I drew, but in this case, I drew the 10 of stone, which means I could then take control of the Hanataz token. All right, let's rewind, do the next face card. The next face card is a wizard. If this player played the wizard right now, they would get to draw 2 cards using the Conjuration special ability. Now, they already have 5 cards, so that means now they're sitting at 7 cards. You cannot start a new hand with more than 5 cards. However, they can continue to play until the next hand starts and then choose whichever, if need be, of those cards to discard before they start the hand. So the next face card is the dragon. If they play the dragon on their turn, very simple. The dragon lets you hoard 3 of the sylves from the pot, leaving a very insubstantial pot for me to win. The next one is a rogue. The rogue card allows you to take 2 sylves or a sylve and a card from one opponent. If a player doesn't have the sylves, then they give what they do have, and then they're out of the game because they have been eliminated. In this case, I have the sylves. They're going to take 2 of my sylves. If they chose 1 sylve and 1 card, they would just randomly choose a card out of my hand and take it. Again, if they have more than 5 cards at the beginning of a round, they would have to discard down to 5. But during this round, as we keep going for this pot, they can hold as many cards in their hand as they accumulate. The next face card we're going to look at is the Crown. And the Crown has an ability called Gambling Tax, where every player has to add a sylve to the pot or nub out. So that would make that pot much bigger. The next face card is the Knight. The Knight has a protection ability, which lets you counter a rogue or a dragon. This is the only card that is played off turn, meaning that you actually couldn't play it during your turn. You have to wait till somebody plays a rogue or a dragon and play the Knight to counter it. If you are nubbed out, you can only play a Knight if you are targeted by the rogue. So that's all of the normal face cards that have a suit. Now we're going to go into the 5 special face cards that are suitless. The Priest has an ability called Divine Intervention. You'll discard all played number cards, then reveal cards from the top of the deck until you reveal a number card, and that new card takes control of the pot for you. And then you would be currently winning that pot. And you would discard any other revealed cards. So if we had a bunch of face cards we were flipping, we would just discard those. If you ever get to a point where you need to draw or you need to do something with the draw pile, you just reshuffle the discard into the draw pile. The next face card we're going to talk about is the Fool. And the Fool is probably the most complex card in the game. So the Fool has an ability called Trick and Trade. You choose a face-down card from the Hanataz hand and place it into your hand. You then shuffle the Fool into the Hanataz hand. You'll take the Fool token to let everyone know that your Fool is in the Hanataz hand. Then at the end of the round, let's say this player had won with a 9. That was their card. They have to choose one of these cards to see if they split it with a Hanataz. If they reveal the Fool, you get the pot instead. You don't have to split it with the Hanataz. You get the pot. Let's say the Fool was just put into the Hanataz hand, but nobody actually played the Fool. So the Fool token still sits with the Hanataz. If this player had revealed that Fool, the Hanataz take the whole pot and not just half rounded down. That's how the Fool and the Fool token work. The next face card we'll talk about is the Troll. The Troll has an ability called Pay Toll. All active players must give you a Sylve or nub out. So I would have to give a Sylve or nub out. This player would have to give a Sylve or nub out if it was that player playing the Troll. The next card is the Assassin card. The Assassin has the ability Assassinate. You basically force a player to nub out. So let's say this player is going to force me to nub out. If the player you force to nub out controls the pot, you discard all played number cards, and control of the pot goes back to the Hanataz hand, meaning that the next player to play a number card is now in control of the pot. And lastly, the Bard. So instead of playing the Bard on the discard, you're going to actually play it next to the pot. And Bard has the ability Tip the Performer. You place the Bard next to the Hanataz hand, and for the rest of the round, players must place a Sylve on the Bard in order to play any face card. The player who played the Bard gains all Sylves on that card at the end of the round. If no coins are on the card at the end of the round, the Hanataz will play the Bard's player 5 Sylves, and then you discard the Bard at the start of the next round. So you would basically take 5 Sylves from the supply and give it to the player who played the Bard if there's no Sylves on it at the end of the round. So those are all of the different face cards in hand of the Hanataz, and you win the game by having the most Sylves after a certain number of rounds, or if you like an epically long game, force everyone out of the table. I would recommend saying we're going to play 6 to 10 hands of Hand of the Hanataz, and whoever has the most Sylves at the end of that wins the game. And that's a demo of how to play Hand of the Hanataz.